Good afternoon, and thank you for being here to listen to my final documentation project in my graduate 5310 cross-linguistic pedagogies class. During this project, I will go over a brief introduction and then the project procedure and overall summary, including my analysis and conclusions. Thank you. So, before we begin, I would like to provide a brief introduction and kind of background information on the student that I chose and why. So, the student that I chose to work with is currently in the third grade and 8 years old. She is a native Spanish speaker, emergent bilingual. Currently, she has no siblings. A little bit more background information. She comes from a predominantly Spanish speaking household. When I met her, she spoke very little, not even very much Spanish. She was a pretty quiet, shy kind of girl, and she was having difficulty retaining her native language, and that included letters and combinations of 1 to 3 letters. So, as I've gotten to work with this student, not only has she grown, but I also grew myself. When I began working with this student, it was actually about 3 years ago when she was in the first grade. And it was my first year being a certified teacher and also being a special education resource teacher. So we both kind of have grown together over the years. And her being my first dual language bilingual student, a lot of the strategies that I've put into place, doing cross linguistic um, lesson plans, have been for her and based on her. And so I would like to go ahead and use her as kind of a way to continue what would I do for a student like her and what can I do next for a student like her. And so another reason why I chose this particular student is I believe she is the perfect example of a child, a student who is using their native language and their knowledge of languages to build upon each other. So she's just kind of been a little bit teeter-tottering, I feel like, between languages. Although Spanish is her native language, as I mentioned previously, she did struggle retaining Spanish, but after some practice in English and catching on in English, we went back to Spanish and more focused on Spanish, and she's been able to build using that and is a lot stronger in Spanish now and is just kind of filling in some of the blanks in English. So, what I wanted to see here was compare how she's doing in one language and in the other on the same skill and analyze what are those differences and what steps could be made next in order to help maximize this particular student's growth as well as students like her in the future. Thank you. So, when conducting this documentation procedure, what I used as my starting point was some of the data that I had already been gathering with this particular student. This student was working on goals and objectives that include reading blends in both English and in Spanish. So, what I did with this data was I looked for commonalities that just across English and Spanish, and as well as the differences in her performance in English. And I went ahead and took note of some of the reversals and vowel teams and things that she needed to be perhaps exposed to in order to improve her performance.
In
So
the
for
next
my
part of
procedure,
my
what I
project
did
procedure,
was I used some
what
of
I
the data
had my
that I had
student
been
do
collecting
was
throughout the school year
now
that
read
involves my students'
a
current
couple of
goals
books
in
that
decoding
include the
and
skill
spelling.
that she had been
And
practicing.
I
Again,
went ahead
noting
and
what are some things that
tracked those
she may
responses
need
and took
help
notes of
in order
any
to make
potential
more
discrepancies.
sufficient progress
Additionally, I also had my
across
student
both
read
of
books
the
that included
languages
this
that she
particular
is
skill that she had
currently
been practicing and
improving
improving
upon,
upon.
building upon,
And after
and
I had her
working to
read these
improve.
books, I transcribed all of the
In the
decoding
next part of
that
my
she read,
project
and
procedure,
I then
what I
analyzed
had
her
my student
responses,
do was
and I noted any patterns
now read
that may
a
be
couple of
a
books that
potential
include the skill
discrepancy
that
in
she had been
translanguaging.
practicing. Again,
And finally,
noting
I
what
compared
are
my
some things
notes and my
that
findings,
she may
confirming
need help
her areas
in
of
order
need
to
and growth.
make
And also, I
more
created a plan to
sufficient
increase
progress
her
across
understanding
both of
in
the
language
languages that she
differences that will
is
hopefully and
currently
overall help my student
improving
grow
upon, building
in
upon,
her native language
and
as well as
working
English.
to improve.
So for my
In
procedure,
the
what I
next
did
part of my
was I used
project
some of the
procedure,
data that I had been
what I had
collecting
my
throughout the
student
school
do
year
was
that involves my
now
students'
read
current goals in
a couple
decoding
of
and
Skewe, ske, di, skeudi, cat, skeudi, cat, cha, cas, chasd, damos, damos, cas,
tú inténtalo mejor que puedas.
chasing, skeweed, cat, skeweed, cat, chasing the rabbit. The rabbit chasing scary cat. Scary cat chasing the spider. The spider chasing scary cat.
The spider chased scaredy cat. Good.
Scary cat.
Scaredy.
Scary cat chasing the bird. The bird chasing scared cat. I'm scared, said scared cat. Don't be scared of me, said the bird. Don't be scared of me, said the spider.
Good.
Don't be scared of me, said the rabbit. Don't be scared of me, said the mouse. Don't be scared of me, said scary cat.
Good job. After I transcribed the recordings of my student to the best of my ability, I analyzed the responses of her decoding, and I noted any patterns that she may be using, including translanguaging. And finally, I compared these notes in her readings and in other data that I had collected previously that includes her decoding in English and Spanish, as well as her spelling in English and in Spanish. So I compared all of these notes and findings And I was able to confirm her areas of need, areas of growth, and create a better plan to increase her understanding in both English and in Spanish, as well as find where she's at in order to improve upon her English learning. So now let's talk about the analysis and some more detail about my students' readings and transcriptions. So as I told you before, I went ahead and collected data, and I had that includes transcriptions as well as responses in reading blends and spelling them. So what I did first was I analyzed my students' readings, and I found that she continues to struggle with R sounds. Including English vowel teams and also bossy IR words. And you can see that in some of the examples when she reads scary cat chasing the spider instead of spider, and the bird instead of the bird, and scary cat. So she substitutes like a W sound for the R sound. Um, so that's partially expected because that is why we work on blends already, the R and the L. I know that she had troubles with that in the past, but part of the plan here is to go ahead and expose her to R controlled words and vowels that she probably hasn't been exposed to before. And when decoding and spelling blends, my student can benefit from reviewing additional vowel teams which are not present in Spanish. So you can see in her responses when she is reading and spelling those blends that she has been practicing, that some of her misinterpretations come from vowel combinations which are not present in her native language. So we see some of those examples when she reads blows instead of blouse, and cram and rather than cream. So my plan would be to teach her vowel teams that are present in English, and some of her other misinterpretations include reversing the B and the D. That is also something that she just has had struggles with in the past. But when she does use her skill, and or she is reminded of that skill, she is able to apply it. So those are just some of the analyzations that I had when reviewing this student's work. So what I would go ahead and do, I tried to include some pictures here also, that I would review the place and manners of articulation for certain or all of the letters, as well as reviewing all of the vowels and combinations that are present in English that she may not have been exposed to. In conclusion, my student does display a struggle when articulating sounds such as R and W, as well as also articulating more difficult combinations that are vowel combinations that are present in English. Some important considerations are that my student's native language is Spanish, and she perhaps has not had sufficient time and practice to learn and absorb more complex sounds combinations in English that are not present in Spanish, such as vowel teams and common welded sounds. It is my interpretation that this student is applying translanguaging to support and build her understanding, which is typical of an English language learner. Exposing her to differences and similarities in English will not only improve her current reading progress, but her overall reading progress and metalinguistic skills. The plan is to teach my student the places of articulation to help her discriminate the differences in sounds, as well as practice matching and verbalizing these sounds in different ways, as well as teaching her the different vowel combinations and sounds that are present in English that are not present in Spanish. Overall, the student is expected to make continued progress. Thank you for watching. Some of the references that have been included in this presentation include readings and or videos that we used in this class. That includes the video on cross-linguistic pedagogy, harnessing transfer in the classroom, as well as the book that we used, Teaching Pronunciation. Thank you.